Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and welcome to this month's Four Horsemen build. This month, the theme, Ed Roth, Rat Fink. I'm super happy to be doing this build in particular because back, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was part of the New England Summer Nationals, which is I would say, one of the largest, if not the largest car show on, I'd say, in New England for the longest time. It's sadly defunct now. But during that time, we had the pleasure of bringing in some top car builders like Gene Winfield, George Barris, and Ed Roth. And out of all of those, I think Ed Roth was the most intriguing person to meet. We'd all go out to eat and hang out before and after the show and everything. And Ed Roth, his persona outside of, when you got him by himself is totally different than if he's out in public. He's got this wacky and crazy and goofy persona that he puts out to the public. But in private, he's one of the most intelligent mans I'd ever met. Very knowledgeable. At the time, I was working in plastics and manufacturing, and he knew more about plastics than anybody I knew, just with his dealings with Revell and all the model kits that he helped create. And funny story, we were talking, and we were out to eat at a local restaurant here in my town, which is about 40 minutes from Boston. And we were out to eat, and we were talking, and he's talking normal and very, very intelligent conversation about plastics and thermoplastic dynamics and all this stuff. And, somebody walks up and says, "Hey, aren't you Ed Roth?" And like somebody flipped a switch. This guy went from intelligent, very precise conversationalist to this wacky, goofy guy. "Hey, how's it going?" And he just went. It was like somebody flipped a switch, and when the guy walked away, it was like somebody flipped the switch back off, and he went back to his regular, talking very intelligently. And I mean, the guy was intelligent anyways, but it was just a funny story, and I feel blessed to have met him. So this challenge is going to be something that I'm looking forward to doing, and I hope you guys like the way I did mine. So let's get into it. All right, so obviously we have this custom Hot Wheels casting that. Overall, it's pretty nice. Middle base, clean paint, really nice job. I'm real happy with the way it looked to begin with. The interior is really cool. It's kind of got that tuck and roll look to it. And unfortunately, I'm not keeping that. So I have this vision of what I want to do. And like most times I have a hard time translating sometimes from my hands to my brain, to my hands, back and forth. So this was a little bit of a challenge, and I ended up cutting more of this car out than I probably should have, but I've got this Zinger, or whatever it is, Johnny Lightning, Daytona Superbird, that I want the ladder bar / rear end setup wheels. I just thought it had that look, because I'm going after the look of the cartoony Ed Roth style. I mean, to me, that identified. You think of Rat Fink and Ed Roth. That's what you think of. I mean, granted, his cars are unbelievable, the Beatnik Bandit, and so on and so forth. But to me, growing up, I was always trying to draw, and he was one of my main influences on drawing cars. So I want to go with the style of what I grew up with. So obviously, I had to cut out the fender skirts to make clearance for that whole setup that I'm putting underneath. And I'm using the original casting chassis, so that works out really well. But because I'm going with that style, I'm going to cut out the hood, and I'm going to cut out the roof, as well as, obviously, the fender skirts, which I'm not a fan of fender skirts anyways. So the motor is from a big-time Muscle Machines. And again, I'm kind of going with that cartoony look. So obviously there's some casting lines on these. It's an older casting. It's been around for a while. And the front fenders, hood, drip rails that go down the side, they're all coming off. It's just, they're pretty bad lines, to be honest with you. I really wasn't happy with that. But it is what it is. And obviously, to do the engine scoop that's going to stick out, I could just glue it on, but to me that looked kind of hokey. So I start by drilling a bunch of pilot holes after I marked out the size of what I want for the engine. Then I'll use my trusty jeweler's saw to cut it all out, and then I'll just file it down and make it nice and smooth. I would say the metalwork on this thing took forever. This was a month-long ordeal. Granted, I didn't work on it full time, but it was one of those things. I'd do it, and I wanted to do this right, and I wanted to do Ed Roth justice. So I kept coming back to it. I didn't want to rush, and I think, because of that, I put more thought than I did work into it. So obviously the headers that came, or the dump tubes that came with the muscle machines, I'm going to use those as well, sticking down underneath, gasser style. And I just thought that would kind of finish off the entire look and feel of how things were going to go. Yeah, I'm just trying. I do a lot of fitting, a lot of testing. So in order to get that whole ladder bar rear end set up, the original casting had the molded in rear end and axles. So I'm just going to grind that smooth so I have a secure place to be able to glue the old Johnny Lightning rear end on without any kind of issues down the road. The last thing I want to do is screw around when I've got everything ready to go together. It gets kind of frustrating when things don't fit. So I spend more time fitting than I do actually assembling. So, which I guess in the end is probably a good thing, but everybody has their way of how they put cars together back and forth. So I couldn't find, and I'm very disappointed, I could not find a rat Fink to fit a Hot Wheels car. I mean, granted, it was supposed to be big, but everything I found was just humongous and it looked ridiculous. So I went to my local hobby store and I found this Dungeons and Dragons. I don't even know what it was, but it had the size-wise, it was perfect. So I pretty much cut his legs off, and now I'm cutting one of his arms off, and I'm going to reposition it because I didn't like the way it went on. See, now he's waving. But it was one of those things that just, I wanted to, again, I was after a certain look, and size-wise, this thing works out perfectly. It's not the goofy rat Fink monster style, unfortunately, but it's what I had to work with, and I did hunt around. I did order things. Everything was just way too big and cumbersome, and it just would have looked, I wanted it to be proportionally cartoonish, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So because I'm using the engine and I cut a hole in the hood, I don't need to be the front end of the interior, which is kind of stupid. I don't know why I cut it off, because I wasn't using the interior anyways. I guess just to cut shit up. I don't know. The glass I am cutting in half, and then I'm going to notch out the back for the roof. This is to make room for the monster to go inside, and I wanted to make sure that I had all my glass covered. So later on in the build, you'll see I paint everything black, and then I make some black windshields for the side, because it doesn't come with the sides, for the driver's side and passenger side. So once I think I'm done, I'll start using my wire wheel to clean up the casting. I'm looking for any kind of minor imperfections that I can kind of hit with my sanding sticks, my files, so on and so forth. And another reason this did take me a little bit longer, because I wanted to get it right, I spent a little bit extra time on the body, and I ended up painting it multiple times just because, a lot of things, but I broke my own rules when it came to painting. So I primed it white, and then I'm using the splash paints. I wanted a pearl white, then I was going to put like a pearl blue over that, mix in some, it doesn't really matter because it didn't work. Not for any reason. You can see right there, I didn't prep the body right when I put my primer on, so I went to put some masking tape on, and it just peeled right off. So I said, screw it, and decided to polish the body. And I'm going to use this Blue Magic and my dirty ass buffing wheel and polish this up. And then I'm really going to clean it up, soapy water. And I'm going to go Spectraflame. And in the end, I'm glad I did. I think the final product you'll see really pops, and I'm kind of glad I went this route. It was a happy mistake, let's call it that. So after I'm polishing it up, I use my terry cloth towel, microfiber, whatever, polish it up. I do it 3 or 4 times, you can see, and then pretty much before I paint, the thing I didn't do the last time is I didn't degrease, which was my fault. But you know, this has been washed in soapy water. Now I'm hitting it with the degreaser. Look how dirty it is. So goes to show you, you got to do the prep work. So the top half of my monster, since I cut off his legs, I kind of painted it with a rattle can green after I primed it, and it was way too glossy, even though it was a flat. So I decided to just use that as a base, and I'm using my Citadel colors. I believe that's Warg Flesh or some crazy crap like that. They have some strange names. So I'm going to hit it with that, and then do his eyes, do his teeth, and then I'm going to dry brush it after with a lighter shade just to add some toning and make it a little bit more believable, or as believable as a monster sticking out of a hot rod is. So I painted the chassis black. The only thing I taped off was the actual grill assembly itself. And then I'm just going to hit the front and rear bumpers with my Maltov chrome pen. I like that look. The look, I guess you could call it the bare casting that it came in to begin with. Obviously, you know, I wanted something shiny, so doing it this way worked out well, and it allowed me to paint the chassis. So I didn't have to worry about masking it off. These chrome pens work awesome. So it took me a while to get them, and once I got them, I fell in love with them. So to add some dimension to the grill, not that you can see it because my camera's all over the place, I'm using some black wash, Nuln Oil from Citadel, just to add a little bit of depth and get in there and make the grill pop just a little bit. It's not crazy and it's barely noticeable, but it's just enough to set it off so that you know it's there and it's not all one big aluminum looking piece. And if you put too much on, it's not a big deal. You can just use your brush to dab it off. And then the only other thing I'm going to do is hit the thing came with side pipes. So I know side pipes and dump tubes is counterproductive, but I didn't want to grind them off, and I thought it looked kind of cool, to be honest with you. I just decided to go with it, and you know, usually you would have your exhaust exiting the back plus your dump tubes. So I just decided to use those as my secondary or my primary exhaust, depends how you look at it. So you can see everything's starting to come together slowly but slowly. I'm going to start gluing things together so I can start fitting. There's a lot of little pieces, and everything on this, because of the way I end up doing it, it has to be done in order. Otherwise, I'd be screwing myself down the road. So you can kind of see now, like at the front wheels, the back wheels, I need to do my dump tubes, trim those to fit, and align those. It's one of those things, you got to glue one side, wait, glue the other side. So I got a base here from an M2, and I cut off the little tabs, I sanded it down. I'm going to make a new top out of styrene, and that's going to be the base that this thing is going to sit on, and you'll see later why. Again, I'm going for the whole Rat Fink crazy ass presentation. Again, it's either going to be a win-win or a fail, a miserable fail. But it does where I think it works out pretty good in the end. So really, I'm just going to glue that down. I'm going to paint the whole thing, get it all one color. So obviously, with any Ed Roth or type of build, you need a big ass shifter sticking out of the hood. So I'm using this brass rod. It's real thin. I got it from it's K&S. I got it from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to use that to bend my shifter. I have some other ones that seemed different sizes. This seemed like it was the most appropriate scale wise. The other one seemed way too big and looked kind of goofy. Again, as goofy as this whole thing is, I guess it didn't really matter, but it's just, this stuff's real easy to work with. I don't remember the exact size, but it's just real simple, and it doesn't kink. It's just really nice stuff. I put a skull on there because it should have a skull shifter with a monster, and then I painted it chrome. The skulls from Citadel with the skull kit, if you guys are interested. They come with like 300 skulls. Now it's a matter of putting it all together. And I'm going to use the Milliput to pretty much set the monster inside and have a place to go. Works out awesome. There's my base. There's my shifter. This is the moment of truth. So before I forget, next month, the build is a van, and it's 4x4. So make sure you guys watch everybody's videos for that. It should be a fun build, way out of my comfort zone. But this is what I started with. I think it looks pretty cool, kick-ass to begin with. Not crazy about the color, but overall the casting itself's really cool. Love that ass. Looks really nice. But with my creative liberties, this is what I came up with. I hope it did Ed Roth proud. I really had a blast. I had some frustrating times with this. This was a challenging build. I wanted to give it my all. I think I nailed it. I'm happy, so I guess that's all that really matters. But hope you guys enjoy it too. The only thing missing is the flames coming out of the headers, which was outside of my skill set. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and make sure you watch everybody's video. There'll be links down below. Make sure you check them all out. I'll catch you on the next one.